summary overview of the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. This particular chapter concludes the middle section on devotional service. And classes I began yesterday already began on the first verse of the 13th chapter, which starts the Gyan section. So this middle portion is considered the jewel. So you'll find that even though it's only 20 slokas, the purports really are amazing. You can see when you read these purports how we can get an understanding of the slokas. Without Prabhupada's purports, personally, I wouldn't have had any understanding. So there's a lot of information here. And because it's only 20 slokas, in preparation for this particular overview, I decided to take the opportunity to make a number of slide series that specify particular philosophical points. So we have a lot of slides to look at, not just the slides for the slokas, which we always have, plus some overview slides and theme slides, but we have at least 4 sets, right? We have 4 sets of a slide series so that you can get more appreciation of the purports. These really help us, I think, understand the main message of this chapter, which is devotional service to Krishna is the only way to attain him. And of course that begins with the first verse. Arjuna wants to know which is better, the impersonal or the personal path. And once he asks that question, then the rest of the chapter gives Krishna's definitive answer and his very logical development of the points. So we'll be talking about how Krishna develops this also. It's quite ingenious, obviously. So we'll be taking a look at all of that. So let us now, we always take a look at our study guide so that we can get an idea of what we have as resource material. And we will be referring to it specifically on the retention checklist. These are what we call takeaway points, take-home points, things that are basic general information about the chapter. When we study, actually the professional method of study is to, get the general information, just like filling out a form. We do that all the time. And then after that, we analyze the structure. And you'll see structure, without structure, it's amorphic. You don't know which verses go where. And then after we know the structure, we emphasize the themes. What are the themes that come up in this particular chapter? And then we do what's called the sequential flow. We go through the slokas and we see how from one sloka to the next, it's developed within each section as well as it links into the next section. And you'll see the link comes from previous chapters, like the last sloka of the last chapter, 1155. It enumerated, and particularly the purport, it enumerated the main points of practicing pure devotional service. And this chapter elaborates further because specific slokas are given for points. So now you'll really get what we call the fine-tuning of devotional service and what is expected of it. So let's take a look at our study guides together. And Abhay has them on the screen as well, so you can follow as well. We always take a look at what we have as resource material. These are meant for your personal study. You may keep these. Please return, however, any exam boards or pens when you leave, and you get your prasadam also. But these are for your personal study. We've tried to make them as comprehensive as possible. Much of the material is from previous, almost 2 years ago, chapter 12. But we have updated certain sections, such as the sloka sections. We've added retention pages, and we've also added frequently cited verses. And then also, because this chapter is the final one in devotional service, I have a list of, coming from Vanipedia, the top 15 cited verses from 7 through 12. So if you wanted to see which slokas Prabhupada quotes, some hundreds and hundreds of times. So you can see the importance of this particular section. Okay? So first of all, you have your cover, right? And then you have the page where we call the takeaway points. These things are the basic information that, as a student, you should have. Prabhupada said these are our law books, so we need to know the specifics as well as the general points and the mood. Then we have the study guide after that. It includes statements of learning objectives, and it shows you how study develops from general information to structure to sequence, then themes. And then the final portion is angles of vision. We call this the enrichment section, where we add things that enhance our understanding. Everybody following that okay? Okay, on the screen. Then our next section, Bhagavad-Gita as it is, this is the section that we have developed to make your studies simpler. And we've even tried to make the slides. I work each time. The slides, give them the new look. What's the latest look on your cell phone? What's the latest look on your computer? Material energy is convincing you to follow them. And we're trying to convince people to follow Bhagavad Gita. So I try to make these slides very, very up to date. So you'll see they're looking quite different this time. And here you'll see each sloka has what I call a title word. And that word is the title word in a slide as well. So that way you can just jump very easy, like stepping stones from one verse to the next. The section divisions are there. This chapter has 3, only 20 verses, 3 sections. Okay? And then we have the key thematic verses. Surprisingly, we have, I think it's 9 out of 20. That's almost half. So it's an important chapter. It's a very important chapter. Its shortness should not think it's unimportant. Actually, the 2 chapters that the children in schools in India used to memorize were chapters 12 and 15. Those 2 chapters each have 20 slokas. And the amazing thing is that they both stress the personal aspect of Krishna. Yet India believes that, no, that's incorrect. Impersonal. He's impersonal. And we're going to hear the complete arguments Krishna makes against that concept. Okay? So you have here those 11, and we've done those 9, and we've done those also with icons in the translation. So everything's there, the Sanskrit word for word, and that's extensive. Key thematic verses. Definitions goes on and on and on, because actually Prabhupada defines quite a few things. I don't know if I had that divided by, yeah, it's divided by section. This was done 2 years ago, actually. And analogies and examples, so many. At the time, I didn't make many slides on that. Right now, I'm emphasizing more on structure, so that in our classes, that's the point. If we know the structure, we have a clear understanding of where the parts belong. But you can see here so many analogies and the reference on the page by section and by purport. Okay? Then values, objectives, checklist. That goes on for many pages. That one may seem a little tedious to you, but I went through the purports, and everything Srila Prabhupada said about pure devotional service, I turned it in, I put it in there. That way, if you read this, you can understand what is my objective, and how do I measure. The scale of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is for your reference. We have to try to assess ourselves as we progress. So 1 means I never do it, 2 means I seldom do it, 3 means sometimes, 4 means I often do it, and 5 means I always do it. And let's just start with the basic one. I always think of Krishna and I never forget Krishna. So you can see the extremes here. Actually, the injunction and the prohibition are always there in Shastra. Do this and don't do the opposite, right? It's always there. So you will see this is quite extensive. It's practically a dissection of each purport, practically. Every line is powerful. Every line is powerful. It goes on and on and on. Don't let that overwhelm you, though. And then we have in here a verse question bank. You can, if you like filling in the blanks, you can do that on your own. And the cited verses, which are not only for this chapter, okay, chapter 12, 20 verses, all right. Not all of them cited, and on the back, the list of all the important slokas in the bhakti-yoga section. Very helpful list. These are available on Vanipedia. Scriptural references, and then you have a chart section. So these are older, and they come from our little study guide, 1881, but you have the bhakti-yoga section with the blanks. You can fill in the numbers, and then if you turn to the back, you'll see the devotional service mind map. A mind map is a radiant configuration organizer. So it's easier to remember than a lineal structure. It's been proven. So we like to do the mind map format, and you can fill those numbers in on your own. Then we have the picture charts with the before and after you can fill in. And then we have a code chart. Picture charts are there, but the codes are used for just like shorthand. Right? And the same thing for the thematic verses. You have the numbers and then you have blanks. So you can see. Now the easy thing to remember about this is that they're from verse number 2 through 12, it's in a row. It's not tricky. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's how important this section is. Okay? I hope this helps you. I hope these things give you a little insight into the chapter, because then all the slokas make more sense. And then the themes, 3 main ones. 3 main themes, if you turn to that page, very important. The yoga processes, which is explained in the second section. Stages of devotion. Defeating impersonalism, number 1. Number 1. And of course, bhakti. So you have 3 themes there. The yoga processes, which is explained through either the direct or the indirect. And the final one would be defeating impersonalism. Okay. And the blanks. Then we have VIG charts, which are there. We've added them, but I converted these 4 charts into slides for you. So that way you will be able to, actually I didn't do the 4th one, I did 3, the Bhakti series. But I did take a slide series on the first of the qualities that endear one to Krishna. And I made a 12, since this is chapter 12, I made 12 slides that cover the first 2 slokas. It's a combined. As Prabhupada said, these 2 slokas describe pure devotional service. So if we look at those slokas, the Sanskrit is there, the English is there, we will know what it takes to qualify ourselves to be reinstated in our eternal service. Right now we're aspiring to do that, revive our bhakti. We have been forgetful for lifetimes innumerable, and somehow or other, by Prabhupada's grace, we've been given the opportunity to say, enough. I want out of the prison house. I want to be back with Krishna. Okay? So you see that there? There's some more definitions. What did I have there? All right. So everybody understand your material? And materials are often sometimes overwhelming. People think, oh, why did you make it so complete? It's too much. But actually, we always say, if you have a book, all the parts are there. Not everybody uses all of them, but they have to be there. Otherwise, it's inadequate. So you have everything. Okay? So let us now, first we're going to take a look at the theme slide. I have a compare contrast. This whole chapter is compare contrast. How does the impersonal compare with the personal, and how does the direct devotional process compare with the indirect? The whole chapter is comparison. So I'm taking a look now. We're going to take a look at the desk drawers. The importance of organizing our thinking before we start, because we're spending all of our time on structure at the beginning, okay? Why is structure important? So can we take a look at that? Do you know where you have those pictures? Okay. We have two pictures. And you tell me which one you think represents what you want to do. Okay, you found it? Okay. This is a desk drawer. Now, I don't suppose any of you here have a drawer at your home that looks like this, do you? Oh no. How do you feel when you look at it? Do you feel confused? The tendency would be to close it and not, and would you be able to find something easily? No. The tendency, if something is cluttered, not simple and not clear, you close the door on it. That's why we spend a lot of time on structure. The mood now, even because people have been accumulating so much, the mood now in the world, people are trying to be progressive, is streamline and declutter. Declutter, get rid of things you don't need and streamline what you want to know. So let's take a look at the other desk. Which one would you rather have? Number 1 or number 2? Number 2? How do you feel when you see this one? Peaceful. You can find it, and it's not too much. It's minimal. Krishna consciousness means the bare essentials. Not excessive, pratyahara, not too much. And it should be pleasing, because if it's pleasing, you're attracted. So you find the difference. Now, if you have structure and organization in your study, it's pleasing and you are effective, right? You'll see the difference. That's why we spend so much time on that. Without structure, it's amorphic. If your skeleton were to dissolve, you would melt on the floor as an amoeba. You'd have no form. You'd be formless, right? So study begins with the general information and then what? Structure. Okay, there we go. Very important point. All right, now let's take a look at our retention points. Okay, our page. And please mark these so you know what it is. You can say you know when you leave today. The chapter title for this verse, this section, is what? Everybody really loud, because on the radio they can hear you, okay? I know it's hot and people are usually tired at this time of the day, but give it the college try. Okay, what's the title? Devotional service. Very good. What's the number of this chapter? 12. Good. Hey, it's fantastic. I think the ladies were doing better, right? We did like the Matajis and the Prabhus, so we have a little. All right, what's the size? 20 verses. Very good. One of the 2 shortest chapters in the Bhagavad-Gita. What's the other one? Do you know which other chapter? Did I said it? Did you hear? Which number? 15, yes. 12 and 15 are only 20 slokas. Very important. Purushottam Yoga. It's coming up in our Gyan section. Very important. We study that especially during Purushottam Mas, right? All right. What section are we in? Bhakti, the final section. Okay. So far, how many of you have filled in all your points? Have you done it? Okay, you know 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's a little more difficult here, but how many topics do we have? Now this is important because this is the structure. This gives us the general heading of how the most important information is organized, just like that desk. Otherwise, it's just a desk with a lot of stuff folded, right? So you saw the difference. But if you know you have just a minimal amount of things and you know exactly where they go and it looks beautiful, you'll open it and you'll be effective. Okay, so we have 3. Okay, and we can do some signals for this. This is fun. Bhakti, everybody?
Bhakti.
Over. Impersonalism. Okay. Of course, in this case, it's not Mayavadi. Impersonalist in this case is the Jnani. He's the Jnani. The impersonalist Mayavadi, he's just an offender. But anyway, it's easy to remember. Stages of what? Devotion. And the third one is what? Qualities that endear one to Krishna. This is what we want to be. Dear to Krishna. And he's going to define what it takes. Actually, I've heard Prabhupada say that just as bhakti is inherent in the living entity, it's just dormant, as he purifies, the 26 qualities of devotee start to manifest proportionately. They're there. If they're not manifest, it just means that person hasn't fully purified. So you'll see in this chapter, many of those terms are the qualities of a pure devotee. So as we progress in our spiritual purification, those qualities come. They're there. Right now they're just covered. Right? Expert and kind and merciful and forgiving and magnanimous, so many qualities. Okay? So bhakti over impersonalism, and the next one is stages of bhakti. Okay, and the final one is what? Qualities that endear one to Krishna. And we want to know what that takes. So now you know the structure. You've got your desk drawer, and you know where the verses go. Okay? Now we're going to go down quickly with, I like to use numbers also for other important points. So the number 1 is, who is the Supreme Lord? Who is the Supreme Lord? Yeah, some people still don't believe that. Most of the people on the planet question it. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. So you know that. That you wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't believe that. Number 1, what is the only absolute path for self-realization? Devotional service. Pretty clear. Prabhupada ends his purports, last purport, with that. This is the process, whether you like it or not. I like Badri Narayan's. He said, we fell straight, we have to go back straight. No compromise. The next number 2. 2 classes of transcendentalists. What are the 2 classes? Impersonalist and personalist. Krishna. Okay. What are the 2 forms of worship? Sagun. Sa means with qualities. Sa, guna means qualities. And what's the other form? Nirguna. Nir means without. Without qualities. They're both in the scripture. They're both valid. But they're compared. And we have a series of slides on Sagun and Nirgun comparative worship. 2 processes of elevation. What are the 2? Direct. And the other one is what? Indirect. So one is direct and the other one is gradual. Okay? Does this make it easier for you? You see how this whole chapter is comparison. Okay? 2 kinds of devotional service. What are the 2 kinds? The first is what? Love and attachment. Yes, this is Raganuga Bhakti. It begins at a Sakti. It's not a cheap thing. And at a Sakti, you see your form. So if you haven't seen your spiritual Swarup, you're not able to do Raganuga Bhakti. You may think so, but it's illusion. And the other process is what? Yeah, side regulative. Yeah, that's what we do. Sadhana Bhakti. Right. Sadhana Bhakti is regulations. The impetus is the rules and regulations. I have to get up, I have to take a shower, I have to chant my rounds, I have to. But in the spontaneous platform, it's automatic. No one has to wake you up. No one has to. You do it out, and you do it out of love, not out of fear. Because sadhana is based on fear. If I don't do it, I'll suffer. So Raganuga is based on natural love, and sadhana is based on fear. Because I'm told by the spiritual master, if I don't do these things, I will not succeed. You see the difference? The impetus is different. And you can see how much you're progressing by how much you actually enjoy doing the process. Okay, that's only you will know. Okay. 3 levels of knowledge, very important here. What are they? Brahman, right? Yeah, right. And the next one is what? Paramatma. And the topmost is Bhagavan, right? Complete. Each one is partial. The other 2 are partial and temporary. Bhagavan is eternal and complete. Somebody wrote me, I think she questioned me, how can we know Brahman is temporary? It's dangerous. Prabhupada said if you go there, the tendency, because of lack of activity, and the soul is active, the jiva comes back down and performs welfare work. And Paramatma exists, it's an expansion. It's an expansion of Garbhodakshay Vishnu for the jiva who wants Krishna's property without Krishna. Material world means I want Krishna's land, but I don't want Krishna. But Krishna is so kind, as super soul, he guides you. If you listen to him, right? If you will. And the 5 stages of devotion. This is the second section. What's the first one? Fix your mind. Everybody do that? Fix your mind. And what's the second one? Follow the regulative principles. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Temple arti, right? What's the third one? Yeah, work for Krishna. If people can't take to that, they can offer some practical work. And what's after that? Yeah, well, I can't do that. I hold a job, but I can give the results of, I can give up my hard-earned money, which is not yours, it's Krishna's. So some people have to learn to purify. It's not, nothing is theirs, nothing is ours except our devotional love for Krishna. And be self-situated also. And what's the final one? Cultivate knowledge. Now that has a lot of meanings. In the 9th chapter, the 15th sloka has 3 divisions for that. It's not just study. The first one is one without a second. The second one is like demigod worship, right? Forms of many. And the third one is the universal form. They're a form of worship, but it's Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Jnana Mishra Bhakti. But better you cultivate knowledge. At least you do any of these, and the benefit will be the gradual elevation to a higher and higher stage. It's automatic. We've been through all this. If you are sitting here and you go to the temple and you see Radhe Shyam, you have cleared all these hurdles in millions and millions of lifetimes. So you're special, and you should be grateful, and you should be careful not to risk falling backwards again, right? I've seen devotees, practicing devotees, turn to atheism. It's very scary. Born in Vrindavan, devotee parents, become atheists. Don't think it's not dangerous. Okay? Did you find your checklist helpful? Okay, we're going to take a look now at some comparative slides to help you lock all this information into place. Our first one is, I think it's in our information section about, it has the 3 pictures, and I think you also have this in your study guide. It has 3 pictures. Well, also we can look at our 3 topics. Let's do that. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Turn to your chart here, and this is right after your mind map. Mind maps are a little theoretical for a lot of people. Some people have my little book and say, oh, it's so helpful. Others look at it and say, I don't get it. It depends on your orientation, so we try to have a variety. The mind map is for the person who's maybe good at physics and chemistry, and the pictures are for the artist, and the codes are for the person who likes math. So you get all kinds of people's learning styles. None is necessarily wrong, but we try to cover the spectrum. So here you have 3 categories in that picture, and we talked about those. Your first one was what? Bhakti over impersonalism. You want to just hammer that and drill it. The mantra for study, according to professionals, is memorize the skeleton. Memorize. Walk out of here and say Bhakti over impersonalism. Stages of devotion and qualities that endear one to Krishna. Say it in your sleep, and you'll be surprised. You're going to get purified. This knowledge is eternal. It stays with you. And your second one was stages of devotion. And you see here little Prahlad. He's at the topmost. And your third picture is qualities that are endearing to Krishna. And again, you have little Prahlad. Some personalities just fit all the time. Prahlad is one, Haridas Thakur is one. There's certain pictures that I find a hard time not using again and again and again, because I can't find someone who quite is unquestionably representative of that point. So you have your blanks here. Now the numbers of verses, it's very easy. That's helpful also. Doing a little math. And you can turn to your code for that, because the codes are easier than this. You turn to this section, you all have it. This is good for the person who likes math. But it's also good once you know how to read a code. So you see the heart over the... So the heart represents bhakti, and the 3 lines represent impersonalism. Again, it's really jnana, it's jnana yoga, but it's simple. The next is arrow and stages of devotion. And the last one, you see little stars. Those represent qualities. A heart for K is Krishna. Now the numbers, we only have 3. Some chapters we have 6 divisions, so it gets a little tricky, but we try to make it easy. The first one is number 7. Verses 1 through 7, and remember I told you from 2 through 7, they're all thematic. Every one is important. The second division is 5. 5. How many?
5.
What's your first one?
7.
7. And what's the next one?
5.
What do you get if you add 7 and 5? 12. How many are left? 8. 12 plus 8 equals what? 20. So if I add 7 and 5 and 8, I get 20. Math check? All right. And sometimes to remember numbers, we think of something easy to remember. 7 mothers, 5 Pandavas, 8 gopis. How many mothers?
7.
7. And how many Pandavas?
5.
And how many main gopis? 8.
8.
7, 5, and 8. Okay? So now you know the topic, you know the size, and the title. Was that very hard? No. But it's definitely helpful. Because then things fall into place like that nice, neat little desk drawer. Okay? And you saw here on the key thematic verses, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 6 out of the 7 and 5 out of 5. Okay? The last section, they're not like that. But the purports are brilliant. The Prabhupada's purports are brilliant. Okay? And you remember the 3 themes? Who remembers the themes? You remember those? Yeah, yoga processes, that's the middle section. Impersonalism. And the last one is bhakti. That's so, it's pretty, what shall we say, cross-referencing. Easy to go. Okay, that helpful? Let's take a look at the slide now that shows the 3 major comparisons. We saw the 3 divisions. Now we're going to see the 3 major comparisons in this chapter. Okay, do you know where that one is, Abai? It shows the impersonal comparison. It shows the devotional process comparison. And it shows the devotional level, right? So your first comparison in this chapter is between what? Personalist and impersonalist. That's the first 7 slokas. The next section is a comparison in 2 ways. It is a comparison of direct and gradual. Right? Direct and gradual. Direct is either sadhana bhakti or raganuga bhakti. Gradual is I either work, or I sacrifice the results of my work, or I cultivate knowledge. Right? But it'll lead you, but it takes longer. Prabhupada says it's the stairway, not the elevator. Sadhana bhakti directly connects you with Krishna. And raganuga bhakti is, you're there. Even if you're in the material world, you're not. You're there. Now, those 2 you'll see. Attachment in love, raganuga bhakti, and the other one is vaidhi bhakti, rules and regulations. So you have 3 comparisons. What's your first one, everybody? Impersonalist? Yeah, you have 2 kinds of they're transcendentalists. That's very important. That's in the Bhagavatam also. They are transcendentalists. They actually aspire for something higher than animal life. There must be something better than eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. There must be. Higher purpose. That person's an elevated soul. And the next is devotional processes. Gradual versus direct. And the final one is the 2 stages of bhakti. Right. Either the attachment of the direct, 2 stages of the direct process, either attachment in love or regulation. I go to the temple, I chant my rounds, I eat prasadam only, right? I follow the rules. Sometimes that's not as easy to do for conditioned souls. If it were, you'd have the place packed. But Prabhupada's made it about as simple as, and Lord Chaitanya as simple as can be. So you understand that now what's in this chapter? See, we're trying to give you a comprehensive understanding of what's really in here, not just verses. Okay, now we're going to take a look at a new series of slides I did. First of all, the one that shows the little verses. I have 3 slides. I did these the other night because it was Nirjal. And I didn't want to realize how thirsty and hungry I was. So I just worked and worked and worked. I made about, I don't know how many slides. I just made slides. Okay, this is the breakdown. Ready? I put the number of the verse, and these are the little mini pictures. We're going to look at these slokas. This makes it super easy. What does verse 1 do? Everybody? Yeah, Arjuna asks a question. He does that in almost every chapter. He opens it up with a question, and then usually the rest is Krishna's elaboration. So he wants to know, well, what's better? Those who follow the path of impersonalism, or those who worship you in devotion? So number 1, service in the plaza. Number 2, what's verse number 2? Krishna answers very definitively. Those who worship my personal form. Okay, not the impersonal. Now, notice how we have a sample of combined verses for the 2 choices. 3 and 4 will describe who? The impersonalist. And 6 and 7 will describe what? The personalist. In between, verse 5, what do we have? Yeah, don't bother with impersonalism. It's troublesome. And a very elaborate description of even Arjuna says, why should I bother with this? What a waste of time. So Krishna is very intelligent how he develops it. He tells you which one he wants. He compares them. And he makes a very definitive answer as to the difficulty for conditioned beings, embodied beings, to take to the impersonal process. Very difficult. So now you see the first section of 7. Remember the number 7? Okay, just you're getting it's a very analytical, but believe me, even in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada quotes so much of Kapila. Quotes Kapila all the time. Because without Sankhya, without the structure, and we're going to get that in chapter 13, without the analytical process, it's just sentiment. So sentiment is important, but not without structure and philosophy. Philosophies make sentiment real. So you see the pictures there? We'll be taking a look at those again. Now here's your middle 5. The first one is what? Attachment. Simple. Second one is what? Regulation. We said that. The comparing, these are the 2 direct processes. Which one is superior? Then, now we come down. We start, in these sections, we start out with the topmost, but Krishna says, don't worry, if you're not there, I have room for you. The Vedas are like that. They're in the mode of goodness, some are in the mode of passion, some are in the mode of ignorance. It's comprehensive. It's not just somebody goes to eternal damnation or eternal heaven. The Vedas include all living entities. So here you have attachment, regulation, and then what can you do? You can work for Krishna, either in your office or come and do some practical seva. That's explained also in the last sloka of the 11th chapter. So definitively, Krishna karma. Work should be for Krishna, right? Chapter 3, 3:9, right? Everything should be offered as a sacrifice to Vishnu. Otherwise, you're bound up. Everybody out there, he's working. It's my money, it's my job, I deserve it, right? Yeah, right. You're going to take another body. It's abominable, actually. It's the result. You may take a higher birth, lower birth, up, down, but you're staying in the mrityu samsara, birth, old age, disease, and death. Or you can sacrifice the results of your work, either complete or partial. By giving, you purify your mind, you purify your money. Nanda Maharaj used to sacrifice, give charity of cows to purify his wealth. Nanda Maharaj. And what to speak of us? If you have money, you have to give. And what are those things? Charity and austerity. Sacrifice, those 3 things in the 8th chapter are never to be given up. Purify even the advanced souls. So sacrifice, austerity, and charity never to be given up. So be charitable. Even if a devotee, you don't have much, give something, right? To some good cause within the movement. All right? And finally, qualities, renounces, right? He what are we? We're back at, yeah. So we've got that cultivation of knowledge. We talked about that. Studying the books, obviously, but also, if you can't even do that, cultivate knowledge, you'll eventually come to the perfected stage. And that, if you wanted to go back to chapter 9, verse 15, that's explained. Very, very wonderful. That follows 9:14, which is pure devotional service. Okay, now this is our final section, and I added number 20 because I didn't want to make another page just for one slide. Pure bhakti is explained according to Prabhupada in combined verses 13 and 14. And I didn't take time to total them all up. It's quite a few. But it's very, very complete. And Prabhupada even says, you'll see them repeated, but he said repetition is not the flaw. It means we must develop these qualities. If you want to be a pure devotee, you must develop these qualities. This verse 15, I thought the one word that said most of those things, equipoised. That's a person who has transcended duality. Heat and cold, friends and enemies. He tolerate. How do you get to that point? You have to tolerate. You can't change the material energy. If you try, you're a fool. And they're trying. They're fools. You can't change the material energy. You have to tolerate it, and by tolerating it and by advancing in your purification, like the airplane, you get off the ground. You get above it. That is Brahmabhuta. I go from duality. I like it, I don't like it. Just think about your mind. Why does your mind drive you crazy? Because I like this and I don't like this. And but I thought I liked that, but now I don't like it. You'll go crazy. Your mind is like a washing machine. The mind can only do sankalpa vikalpa. I like, I don't, and that keeps us here. You have to transcend that. And that takes you to the level of equanimity, super soul level. That's why Gyan is so important. Gyan means super soul. I'm equipoised, I'm neutral. But higher than that is love. That's absolute. Krishna embodies everything. When you're on that platform, everything is embodied. Everything is embodied. Expert, 16. Now Prabhupada was so expert at so many things, cooking, mridanga, but expert in this case means he understood the purpose of the Shastra. And renounces, very important sloka. He renounces good and bad. He doesn't take, he's not affected. Not affected. Try it. Prabhupada could go into the Bowery and not be affected. That's a transcendentalist. We would be affected. We're still conditioned. We would not be able to tolerate it. And finally, the last verses, 18 through 19, are qualities, again, that are very endearing, ending with the one that Krishna says makes me very dear, and that's, you consider me the ultimate goal. And then that's our last sloka there. Okay, does that help you? So all those are in those key words in your sloka list. Okay, now I think the next thing to do would be to look at some of the comparative series. We're going to take a quick look at those comparative ones. Are we ready? Let's take a look at the personalist versus the impersonalist. And this is the correct understanding. It's a picture of Sarvabhauma, Bhattacharya, and Lord Chaitanya. He actually was, he took to the Brahman. He thought that was it. Lord Chaitanya represents the Bhagavan. Okay, so you want that series? It's the brown series. Okay? And I have three. One's brown, one's gold, and one's dark blue. Plus a chart on the mentality of the impersonalist, okay? So number 1 point, you see the two here? Impersonal process. This Brown series is the process. What's it like? This is explained in the purport. Compare. We want to compare. We can't just say this is better. Why? Why is it better? The impersonal process, number 1, is difficult for the embodied. He can't really understand. And the personal process, he can see the deity, he gets purified, he's attracted, and it's easy. So which one do you want? Something difficult or something easy? That's effective, right? He became a personalist. After Lord Chaitanya spoke, he converted. He didn't even like the word mukti. He wanted to say bhakti. He became so converted. All right, number 2 point from the purports. The process. It's beyond the senses. I have to restrict my senses. Is that easy? No. Doesn't work very well. Big yogis fall down. Big yogis fall down. Tinkling ankle bell, mating fish, all gone. The personal process, the senses can see the deity. I can hear the mantra. I can eat the prasadam. I can smell the flower. Easy? Every morning it's just, so simple. The flower comes around, the light comes around. You're getting so much mercy. You would faint if you knew. Topic 3. Let's look at number 3. You must understand Brahman through study of Upanishads and all the literature. Now, does every devotee have to come to that level? It's good to study, but even if you can't, it says in the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna can enlighten you in the heart if you're sincere. And you have to know Sanskrit. How many of you here know Sanskrit? I wouldn't have a chance. Personal process. Understand Krishna by doing what? Yeah, you do devotional service and you understand Krishna automatically. Causeless knowledge and detachment. It's in the Bhagavatam. Topic number 4. Is this helping you? This is a slide series. These are available, online if you want them. Okay. Long practice makes it difficult to give it up. That happens in India. Oh, I'm attached to my demigod worship, or I'm attached to my personalism. They do it for a long time and it's the habit. The personal process is what? Natural. It's what you are spiritually. You're eternal servant of Krishna. I love what Narada says in his book on bhakti. He says bhakti is 2 things. You want to know what he said? Number 1, it's natural. And number 2, it's voluntary. You're not forced. Love me or I'll... No, you can't force love. It's natural. Bhakti is natural and voluntary. It's completely natural because you are soul. Topic number 5. We have 6 topics in this brown section. Topic number 5. The devotional impersonal process is troublesome. There's no relationship with Krishna. No relationship. But the personal process, because of relationship with Krishna, he cuts the reactions. He makes sure, everybody realize that? It's in the nectar devotion, Kleshagni. You take to bhakti, and the sufferings are mitigated immediately. And it's auspicious. Right? It's helpful? Yeah, just think about the two, because if somebody's going to argue with you, this is your argument. Next, number 6. Now these are on your charts. You know you have the chart, VIG charts? All I did was make a slide out of that chart. Okay? If you've got the VIG chart, I'll show you these 6 slides were made yesterday while I didn't eat or drink anything. Yeah. Comparing impersonal and personal, one's realization, and one is processed. So the Brown series is comparing the impersonal and the personal process. You just saw it. There are the points. Now it's a little dry in a black and white in a list. The slides make it easier, right? You can see it. Okay. Now we're going to look at 7 slides that are the chart on the realization. What's the result of the process? What do I get for it? You got that chart? All I did was copy it, but in a new format. That's the idea. You take information, but you package it. So that's what the whole material world does. Package the candy bar, package the sweets, package this, package that. If I see the nice package, I obviously buy it. So we'd have to do that to know what it is we should know. Now we're going to compare Brahman realization with what? Bhagavan realization. How do they compare? Brahman realization is what? Say it loudly. Nirguna. Nirguna, without qualities. Bhagavan realization is, what's the other word? Sa guna. Sa means with quality. Form, quality. You go in front of Radhesham, don't tell me that's not powerful. Or Balaram, my goodness, Krishna. Gaurnitai, so sweet. They're all unique, every one of them. These deities nowhere in the universe. Nowhere, nowhere. That Radharani is number 1 in the universe. No, nothing can touch her. And Balaram's a close second. Okay. So Sagun and Nirgun. Which one do you prefer? Obviously you know, or you wouldn't be here. Next, what happened? Did we lose our power? Number 2. Brahman realization. It's inconceivable, but here we have Bhagavan, inconceivable potencies. He can hold planets up, he can expand, he can come in incarnations, one after another. Which one do you prefer? Next, number 3. There are 7 of these. You see, you have 7. Number 3, follow along. Yeah, Brahman, it's all pervading. Bhagavan is also all pervading, but by his energy as super soul. He's in the atom, he's in your heart, he's everywhere. You cannot get away from him. Someone, I think it was Guru Govinda Maharaj, said, if you don't want somebody to know about something, don't do it. Super soul, I've had that experience. If you say something about someone, somehow or other, the person will find it out. So be careful. It's true. Super soul's he's the switchboard. And he's in you and in the other person too. Next. Number 4, unchanging, fixed, and movable. This is the same. Number 5, cannot perceive any opulences because of no activity. It's just the light. That's pretty boring. Pretty boring. They're bored. They get bored, yeah. And possesses 6 qualities in full. That's Bhagavan, right? Krishna's beauty, wealth, intelligence, power, renunciation in full. Which do you prefer, a light? Pretty boring. Okay, number 6. Risk of not realizing the goal. You may not get there, no guarantee. But success is guaranteed. Nothing is lost. You pick up where you left off. Permanent bank account. Guaranteed. Number 7. This is your last one, everybody? Follow along. You like this series? Helpful. These were all happening yesterday. I just keep my mind engaged. Okay, may realize the, what's the term? He may realize the sat and the chit, eternal and knowledgeable form. Partial realization. But if you're Bhagavan realized, you know sat, chit, and you know bliss. You're happy. Who wants to be happy? Yay. Nobody here wants to be happy? Okay, don't be afraid. I tend to look more at the don't mean to ignore the baboos, but yeah, bliss. Everybody wants to be blissful. But they try it materially and it won't work. You'll just get the opposite. The more you strive for happiness, your suffering just begins, right? They don't know it, but they keep trying, but it doesn't work. Okay, did you like that series of 7?
Yes.
Now let's take a look at the blue ones. That's this chart. The impersonalist. We don't have a comparison here, we just have an analysis. Do we have that chart? Yeah. You got it? Everybody have this chart? Now again, you look at this and I bet even if you took this home, you wouldn't look at it. Right? And even if you tried to study it, it would be difficult. That's why we do graphics, because graphics, a picture says something with worth 1,000 words. So slides are very helpful. Everybody agree?
Yes.
Very helpful. In Kali Yuga, everybody wants a picture and no text. Not too much on my brain, but I want to see. Okay, now here's the impersonalist nature. He accepts Shastra, but he does what? Loud? Misinterprets it. Number 2, he may concoct his own philosophy even. I've got a new philosophy now. This is the latest one. Or, the last point, normally they should practice celibacy. If you don't practice celibacy, even the devotees, it's for everybody. Not just the men, it's for the women too. Celibacy. You're not getting anywhere without celibacy. Because the sex is the strongest binding force in the material world. It's the shackles. Okay, next one, the mentality. What's his mentality? You'll see the chart. I couldn't squeeze those all in. Sometimes I double them up. He's detached because by restriction. I don't want to see that. I don't want to taste it. I don't want to hear it. Very difficult. He rejects the material world. He fears a personal identity. What do we do? That must be some kind of an affirmation, Confirmed. That's explained also in chapter 4, verse 4:11. Oh, I like after that. Here's a personal identity. And that's not 4:11. It's after 9, 4:10. 4:10. Okay. And I am God. Everyone is God. And after Brahman realized I can reject my guru and I can reject the deity. They do that. There are a lot of people who go around doing Hare Krishna chanting. They're like that. You got to be careful who you listen to. You have to be very careful. They actually are here. They're chanting and people the mantra, because their mentality is what you're going to get. That's why you should listen to the pure devotee. Either envious of or ignorant of Krishna. Their intelligence is impure. Everybody who has a body to some degree is envious of Krishna. Either openly or subconsciously. We all think we're God. That's why nobody gets along. I'm God. Of course, the impersonalist, he'll say he's God, right? I'm going to get it closer so everybody hears, okay? We don't want it to go. Thank you. Next slide. When you follow your chart, we're going to see what is his philosophy. The world is false and Brahman is truth. Prabhupada says that's not the Vaishnava philosophy. It's temporary, but it's not false. Variety of the material world must mean that the spiritual world would have no variety. They come to that conclusion. That's not true. This is the upside down. Spiritual world has variety, material world has perverted variety. Krishna's body, activities, and service are material. True? False. It's all false. You don't want to think that. Fools deride me. 9/11. Since the Supreme is all-pervading, he can't be a person. True or false? False. Just give a true or false. Do that with somebody. I go, wait a minute, true or false? They're all false. Everything here is false. Because it's a misinterpretation or a concocted philosophy. Next chart. His action. What does he do? What does he do? He tries to understand Brahman through speculation, Upanishads, distinguishing between spirit and matter. That's how he studied. He performs, austerities by restricting his senses. Very difficult. May stop physical activity even. Very difficult. Try that with a little kid. Not possible? May perform Panchopasana worship. That means 5 forms of the deity, but I reject it later. May perform mundane welfare activity. And 5, progress depends on one's endeavor. I can do it. Whereas the devotee, he reaches up for Krishna and gets help. The devotee endeavors, the 2 inches on the rope, endeavor and mercy. You have to try. It's not a one-way deal either way. You have to try, and Krishna will have to reciprocate. It's up to him, though, according to how much you try, proportionally. Next, what's the result? Merges into Brahman. Sayujya Mukti. Boring. Very boring. Does that help you? Okay. Now we're going to take a look at the 12 qualities that we should want to be. Everybody want to know what you should be? Okay, here we go. 12 qualities that will endear you to Krishna. Now see how you do. Number 1. I'm non-envious. That's tough because we're here because we are. What's the next one? Number 2. Are we friendly to everybody? Or do we walk around like, get out of my way? That was verse 1155, friendly. Number 3, am I kind? Are you kind, everybody? You kind people? Karuna. Number 4, no sense of proprietorship. I own this. This is mine. This is mine. Anybody? That's pretty heavy too. You don't have anything. Even your talents are borrowed plumes. Borrowed plumes. Everything's coming from Krishna. Number 5. No false ego. No. This is pretty heavy list. You like these slides? I thought it made it pretty clear. Number 6. Equal in happiness and distress. Everybody good on that one? Anybody getting a good point here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ready for number 7? This is the first 2 slokas. Number 7. Forgiving. I may forgive, but I'm not going to forget. He did that to me. She did that to me. Try that one. These are difficult. Don't think this is cheap. Let's try number 8. Let's see how you do. Satisfied with anything. Oh, the prasadam was terrible. You know, we're not quite on the Judd Bharat platform. He could eat burnt rice and think it was nectar. Anybody doing okay? How about you? Yes. You're doing fine. I know you. You're going okay. How about number 9? Ready? Always engaged in devotion. Not just engaged in devotion, loving devotion. Are you ready for 10? You're going to go home, I think, everybody. Self-controlled. Everybody self-controlled? Never get angry. Can look at a piece of cake and say, I don't need sugar. Try it. Somebody offends you. Oh, Prabhu, it's okay. Try it. Let's try 11. Determined. Now, that's probably, you just never give up. Dhridavrata. Determined. How about 12? Now, that's the other 12. We got it backwards. There's another 12. Mind and intelligence is fixed on me. This is from that list. I made a 12 plus because it's the last one in verse 20. Mind and is your mind always fixed on Krishna? Is your intelligence always fixed on Krishna? And number 12 plus. Mat Param Maha, taking me, the Supreme Lord, as everything. If you can do that, it's full surrender. And this verse said, you're very, very dear. So if you want to be very, very dear, Krishna, you're everything to me. He should be. Did you like that? Okay. Now we're going to run really fast through just the sloka slides with the topic. Really fast, because it's almost 7 o'clock. They give us a certain, what we call, license because we have to cover so much. Let's go back to the slide series, starting with number 1. Number 1. The first word was what? Perfect. The question, what is perfect? Number 2, just the picture. Well, that's okay. This is the sloka. You'll see picture sloka. Number 2, what's the word? Personal is better. There's little Abhay Charan as a boy. Personal is better. And what's number 3? The unmanifested. Remember 3 and 4? They were the impersonal process. What's number 4? At last they achieve me. They get there. Right? Number 5. How would you like to sit there? Covered with worms. It's troublesome. Progress is difficult for the embodied. 6. But 6 and 7, those who are devoted. What's the result? Swift. I am the swift deliverer personally from the ocean of birth. Famous painting. Krishna comes down on Garuda. If you wake up one morning and Krishna is sitting in your room with Garuda, he's taken you home. You've made it. Number 8. Now we're starting the next section. Remember? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Topmost platform is do what? Fix your mind. Fix your mind. On what? A chocolate sundae? On Krishna. And if you can't do that, do what? Deity worship, regular principles, sadhana bhakti. And if you can't do that, what do? You work for Krishna. Sweep the floor, drive a bullock cart. Whatever you like to do it for Krishna. A smart guru will figure out what you're like. Believe me, if you're a kshatriya, he's not going to have you lifting bricks. If you like to lift bricks, he's not going to put you in the accounting office. He knows your nature and he'll assign you the right work. Here's another work. Sometimes people, they go to these big, oh my God, we have so many, affairs going on. We have the retreats. We have Indradyumna Maharaj's, what do they have them in, God, what do they call those? Those big, those big Pandal programs, thousands, in Poland. So many people. There's plenty to do. Do something for Krishna. Okay, number 11, or empty your pockets. But to the right person, not the person on the street who will spend it on a biddy. And number 12, cultivate knowledge. Now this fellow looks very nice. He has a pipe. But if he reads the book, maybe he'll give it up. Okay? Now, 13, friend. It means he's a kind friend to everybody. He preaches Krishna consciousness because it's the only thing that will cause happiness. And number 14, he's satisfied. And 15, quickly, equipoised, like Prahlad. Expert. Prabhupada was expert. Actually, out of the 8 slides, I think 5 were Prabhupada, because I couldn't think of somebody who's really not even a subject of debate. 17, renounces everything. Whoa. Goes to New York in the winter. And 18, equal to friends and enemies. That was Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira, so merciful. They tried to kill them. He still gave him shelter. 19, silent. Does that mean I don't talk? No, I only speak about Krishna, his purpose. And I do monavrata. Some devotees do monavrata. That's not our philosophy. It's a misunderstanding. You're supposed to speak, but about Krishna. And 20, the path is imperishable. You never lose. You're not a loser. What you heard today What you learned today is your permanent bank account. Haribo, did you like that? Okay. Hare Krishna. So, do you want to just a few minutes of the video? And that's it. Because it's 7 o'clock. This clock is actually, I've got one, I think it's about 5 minutes fast. It's about 5 minutes fast. So they usually give us a little bit of, and I see most people were following along. The slides helpful? How about the 12 qualities? Oh, it was pretty heavy, huh? See, if you just read it, nothing happens. But when you see it, you think, oh my goodness. Okay, this is Prabhupada. He's speaking with some Australians. And there was a lawyer there who was defending the devotees because they took some flowers and it was from a nursery. And the nursery tried to take them to court. And the reason I chose this video is Prabhupada saying, hey, wait a minute. Nobody owns anything. Everything belongs to God. And it's an interesting thing because you see how Prabhupada, he's sitting in a room and you get all kinds of people there. Can you, better sound? The sound? You have to read the text. The flowers were nice. And so the lawyer is saying, there are so many nurseries and they had to pick the one that would sue them. Anyway, Prabhupada was arguing the flowers belong to, nothing belongs to anybody. India claims India, Australia claims Australia. He said America claims America. It's all stolen property. The man can't quite accept it. He actually starts questioning. It shows he hasn't understood that. Only a devotee can understand that. But it's interesting. I like it because you see the mirror and you see the people reflected in the mirror. And Prabhupada said, why should we encroach on everybody else's property? 200 nurseries and we pick that one. Be sure he gets prasadam. I did want to tell you have a surprise in there. There's a surprise in there. Everything belongs to God, that's a fact. Everybody agree? I chose this because that's one quality, no sense of proprietorship. And we'll end it there. And thank you so much. It's 7 o'clock. Hare Krishna.